Following the conclusion of the summit held in Mauritania, 49 of the 55 member states of the African Union, AU, have now signed the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area, a $2.3 trillion continental free trade zone encompassing 1.2 billion people would be the biggest in the world by member states, in a bid to increase intra-regional trade, which sits at a measly 15% of Africa's total commerce. Corruption was high on the agenda, in line with the 2018 theme Winning the Fight Against Corruption, a sustainable path for Africa's transformation. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, the chairman of the AU anti-corruption effort, who has made cleaner governance his pet issue, led the bloc in the fight against corruption and encouraged member states to combat illicit financial flows, strengthen their national anti-corruption agencies, and invest in the demographic dividend, among other measures. On peace and security in Africa, the summit reaffirmed its support for the imposition of punitive measures against obstructing efforts to achieve reconciliation and peace in South Sudan. It also welcomes efforts to normalize relations between Ethiopia and Eritrea. During the summit, the AU chairman, Rwandan President Paul Kagame, indicated France as an essential partner in the fight against terrorism in Africa. And he emphasized that it was that reason why the AU was pleased to welcome French President Emmanuel Macron at the summit, which was overshadowed by security failings in the Sahel. Analysts say that when it comes to the issue of peace and conflict resolution, the AU, whose mandate is non-indifference, has done reasonably well, in contrast with its predecessor, the Organization of African Unity, OAU. The OAU adhered to a doctrine of non-interference, a policy that was not helpful to protecting or serving the African people. Critics said that despite structural reforms undertaken by the African Union, a constitutional crisis remains a prevalent issue in many African countries. The AU has also come under criticism for failing to deal with African leaders who engage in the shifting of the constitutional goalposts in order to remove or circumvent term limits. For example, some incumbent presidents have exploited the law by undermining democracy so as to extend their presidential term limits. Analysts argue that perhaps, just like they have taken a stand against doing business with leaders who seize power through military coups, the same should apply to those leaders who change their constitutions to stay in power much longer than their mandate. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.